no Mahomes-Allen comp. One has won an MVP. It's Patrick. One has been to a Super Bowl. It's Patrick. One has won a Super Bowl. It's Patrick. One has beaten the other one in the playoffs every time they've played. It's Patrick.
Is Josh Allen officially the best quarterback in the NFL right now?
Woo. Officially the best quarterback in the league right now. Yes, I'll tell you why. In terms of talent, in terms of checking every single box that you can in terms of intangibles and tangibles, no one checks more than Josh Allen.
You didn't think of it.
I love Josh Allen. I love Josh Allen. He's big time. I ain't going with him over Patrick Mahomes yet. Not yet. I mean, you acting like he can do stuff that Patrick Mahomes can't do.
You're acting like Patrick Mahomes can do stuff that Josh can't.
This duo has been largely heralded as the next great quarterback rivalry. We've had Brady versus Manning, Aikman versus Young, Kelly versus Marino. It seems now that Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes is next in line. Today, we'll be going over this rivalry with the evidence we've been given thus far, how it projects out to the rest of the season, as well as the rest of their respective careers. Don't forget to like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you want to see more like this. Alright, let's get into it. Before we get into the goods, you know what it is, we got to lay that baseline. If you didn't already know, I always put timestamps in the description of my videos, so if you're already incredibly familiar with these two young great quarterbacks, then by all means skip ahead, but if you don't, let's get into it. Let's start with Mr. Patrick Mahomes, Mahomeboy, the $500 million man, the only quarterback to distinctly sound like Kermit the Frog, and last but not least, the favorite choice for the #1 quarterback in the league and the current leader in his personal rivalry with Josh Allen. In his short 7-year career, number 15 for the Kansas City Chiefs, has an MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl win, a Super Bowl MVP, 4 AFC Championship appearances. I mean, I could go on, but for the sake of time and short attention spans, let's move on. But you get the idea. Now, for Josh Allen, a 5-year tenured quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, he may have a less decorated accolade shelf, but his drastic improvement year to year currently threatens Mahomes' reign as the top quarterback in the league, and specifically in the AFC. Now, it's not like Allen has done nothing in his time in the league so far. He's got a Pro Bowl, been to the playoffs 3 times, and he has an average of 240 yards a game on top of 1.79 TDs a game as well. He can tote the rock too, running on average of 38.5 yards per game. Now, you may be thinking, where's the competition? In what world does Allen threaten Mahomes? But you'd be surprised. A large part of the narrative derives from their repeated matchups in the playoffs. Additionally, here's a collection of stats that Allen and Mahomes ranked #1 or #2 in for the AFC, just to give you an idea of how neck and neck they really are. So we got pass TDs, wins, playoff wins, TD percentage, total TDs, first downs, third down conversion percentage, 20-yard plays, and EPA/dropback. Thus far, the Chiefs have outplayed the Bills when it's mattered the most, but many people project this year to be the time when Josh Allen finally usurps Pat Mahomes as the top dog in the league at its most important position. We'll be examining these players in chronological order in reference to their careers, from how they were trained and developed, their success founded in the early to latter stages of their career, and the current standing of the rivalry and my best guess of where it's headed. So without further ado, let's take it back to the trade that started it all, which you may not believe came from none other than the Bills sending away their first round pick to the Chiefs, which they would use to select Mahomes in exchange for 3 future draft picks. I think the first best basis to compare these players on is how they were introduced to the league. Again, we'll be starting with Mahomes before transitioning to Allen, and I'll largely reuse that system for the remainder of the video. Mahomes came from the Texas Tech tree, and played under now Cardinals coach Cliff Kingsbury, where he threw a total of 5,052 yards his junior year with 41 TDs and 10 interceptions. The program didn't come to win anything meaningful, and the vast opinion surrounding Mahomes leading up to the draft was largely the same. He was just a flashy gunslinger type quarterback that flourished because he was in the weaker conference, playing under an offensively gifted coach. However, it seems the Chiefs' front office and head coach Andy Reid knew better and saw the potential within Pat from the start when they traded the Bills for the 10th overall pick and selected Mahomes with it. From the start, the Chiefs vowed to choose the best course of action to cultivate the maximum amount of potential out of Mahomes without stunting his growth. Their preliminary plan consisted of a backup position to Alex Smith, who was a serviceable starter at the QB position in his own right. Thankfully, Alex wasn't a branch off the Ryan Tannehill tree and actually committed to developing Mahomes by teaching him how to spot defensive formations, how to watch film correctly, how to preserve your body before and after games, and much more. Mahomes' first start wasn't until week 17 of his rookie season. And just to give you an idea of how good Alex Smith was before the Chiefs traded him in favor of Mahomes, try on the 2017 leader in QBR, 4,042 yards, 26 TDs, and a 67.5% completion, all on top of just 5 interceptions thrown for size. Even so, the Chiefs moved off of Smith in favor of Mahomes, and boy was it a valuable decision. Mahomes went on to win MVP, Super Bowl MVP, en route to a Super Bowl win versus the 49ers, and a 50 TD to 12 interception split, so maybe the decision wasn't so bad after all. As for Allen, he had a strong 2 years at his alma mater, Wyoming, with his best year being his sophomore, wherein he threw for 3,203 yards on a 25-15 TD to interception ratio. The Bills traded their 12th overall selection and Vita Vea to the Bucks for the 7th overall pick in the 2018 draft and selected the young strong-arm QB. It's likely that you remember the rawness that was the first couple years of Allen's career, but if you don't, his rookie year TD to interception ratio of 10-12 paints the picture somewhat. But even then, every now and again, Allen's true potential would flash. As seasons came and went, the Bills began to build their offense around Josh's strengths, which were plentiful by the time he would lead the squad to their first playoff win in 2020, on top of a 13-3 record to secure the win of their division. In his first bout of the playoffs, Allen and the Bills took on an aged Phillip Rivers and the Colts. The final was closer than Buffalo would have preferred, although Allen's performance of 324 yards with 2 TDs and 0 picks was enough to secure the 27-24 win. A less eventful second matchup, but the Ravens would fall to Allen and the Bills 17-3 in a game where both QBs threw under 210 yards. Allen's 1 TD was enough to get the job done and send them to the AFC Championship, where they would have to face a familiar foe, Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes had earned the number 1 seed in the AFC and went on to defeat the Browns in their divisional matchup. Although not the highs of his MVP year, Mahomes still put up a formidable 26 TDs and 5 interceptions for a total of 4,031 yards total passing for the season. All in all, everyone knew Allen and the Bills would have their hands full entering the AFC Championship matchup, and yeah, it was a bloodbath. Allen finished with an impressive 287 yards on a 2-1 TD to interception split, along with 7 rushes for 88 yards, although it would not be enough to top Mahomes' 325 yards with 3 touchdowns and no interceptions as the Bills fell 38-24. It was a heartbreaking loss for the Bills faithful, who had been seeking a Super Bowl dating back to the infamous 4-year run where they made it each time only to lose in agonizing fashion. Yet again, it seemed the Bills' fate was a loss of this nature. The snapshot of wide receiver Stephon Diggs watching the Chiefs celebrate their conference championship pretty much summed up the sentiment of the quarterback rivalry. But the young Bulls knew they'd get another shot at Mahomes. Speaking of the Chiefs QB, many thought the boy wonder was due for his time to usurp the current GOAT as he somehow crawled his way into the Super Bowl, although in a disappointing loss of 31-9, Mahomes' performance of 270 yards and a 0-2 TD to interception split was far from enough to get the win in the bout, as Brady's 3 TDs helped the Bucs cruise to the victory. Coming into 2021, both Allen and Mahomes had something to prove. Kansas City struggled more in this year than the years past, but not enough to shake them off winning their division and a 12-5 record. Mahomes did more of the same, as he threw for 38 TDs and 13 picks on 4,839 yards. There was a mounting narrative that teams were beginning to figure Mahomes out, but seemingly Mahomes was able to adapt, and even when they took away the deep stuff with the double high safeties, he could throw short and intermediate in order to win as well. One could argue that Allen's year was just as good though, believe it or not. En route to a 11-6 record and a division win, Allen threw for 36 TDs and 15 picks on 4,407 yards. Maybe not as impressive as their previous years, but both guys had performed far more than satisfactory, and after each squad won their wildcard matchup, the Chiefs defeated the Steelers as well as the Bills beating the Patriots, the time had finally come for these two Titans to enter the octagon with another once more. And with each passing year, the faith in Allen grows tenfold. This time, not only was the game an instant classic, but the Bills ensured they would not get defeated as swiftly as they did in the previous year. So much so that there were 4 scores within the last 2 minutes, with the final 2 happening with 14 seconds or less on the clock. In the end, overtime rules being a sham or not, Mahomes and the Chiefs yet again pulled out a victory, this time in an all-time thriller with a 42-36 final score. Yet again, this story remained the same. Only this time, Allen did more than enough to secure the W with his squad, as he threw for 329 yards and 4 TDs with no picks. Although 13 seconds turned out to be indeed too much time for Mahomes, as he finished with the win, while he threw for 378 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. It's hard to put this amazing game into perspective, but I pulled some facts and statistics out to paint a somewhat accurate picture. The Bills and the Chiefs combined for 31 points after the 2-minute warning in the 4th quarter, the most in playoff history. Allen and Mahomes combined for 4 go-ahead touchdown passes in that span, while going 15 of 20 passing for 290 yards. It's the only game in NFL history, regular season or postseason, where both quarterbacks had 300 passing yards, 3 passing TDs, 0 interceptions, and 50 rush yards. Mahomes led an overtime forcing drive that started with 13 seconds left in regulation. It was the latest start time for a game-tying or go-ahead drive in playoff history. While admittedly, respect continues to rise for Allen and the Bills, a large reason they were the Super Bowl favorites heading into the current season, the proof is not yet, well, in the pudding. The large sentiment was that the winner of the bout would be a shoo-in for representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. Well, Joe Burrow was sure to mess that up, as he and the Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Chiefs in a 27-24 victory thanks to a last-second field goal by Evan McPherson. Mahomes threw for 275 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 picks in the loss, and was robbed of a chance to get that second Super Bowl ring. It may be an element of there was some relative buy-in from the Chiefs into the narrative that they were a shoo-in for the Super Bowl thanks to their defeat of the Bills, and because of that, the Bengals were able to surprise them and upset them in order to get that opportunity to face the Rams in the Super Bowl. Okay, now we are caught up. Let's find out what the current status of this rivalry is, and what's the answer for the question of who's the better of the two currently. As the NFL's Week 8 dwindles down, you could find a fairly divided percentage of people that prefer Pat or Josh. But as far as truly distinguishing the better of the two, I guess the onus is on me to make the call. Before I do though, let's talk about how each QB has been performing in 2022. For Mahomes, he's having a fantastic season through the midway point of the season with a 20-5 TD to interception split on 2,159 yards en route to a 5-2 record to lead the AFC West. By no means has Mahomes' play or demeanor dipped, but for Allen, 2022 simply held another monumental step that has the chance of engulfing whatever is in front of it, including Mahomes. Throwing for 17 TDs and 4 picks on 1,980 yards, Josh led Buffalo to their current standing at 5-1, the leader of the AFC East. Both quarterbacks have had some pivotal wins. The Bills' wins over the Super Bowl champ Rams as well as the Chiefs over the Niners come to mind. The two teams also suffered a fair share of missteps thus far into the season. Most notably, the Chiefs lost to the Colts and the Bills lost to the Dolphins. And just like the year before, the Bills found themselves matching up with their rival Chiefs during the regular season, and yet again, the Bills would come out with a 24-20 win, wherein Josh Allen threw for 329 yards and 3 touchdowns to best Pat's outing of 338 yards and a 2-2 TD to interception split. Now more than ever, Allen supporters have been mounting, making the case for his greatness to all that would listen. Only 2 questions remain. Who's the better of the two currently, and what does it mean for their seemingly inevitable playoff matchup? Well, for the first question, it may be boring, but Mahomes still has the edge. You may be able to decipher variations of skill level from year to year, but for my amateur eye, I prefer the good old win test to choose my winning player. And this is where it gets interesting though, because it's not like Allen isn't able to beat Mahomes. He's done it 2 years consecutively, just not when it's mattered the most. So even if Allen were able to throw for 5,000 yards and 50 TDs like Mahomes' 2018 season, he still couldn't be crowned the best quarterback until he gets over that playoff hump, which very well may be this year. The unfathomable consistency these two quarterbacks operate with essentially moves the game deciding factors to the other guys on their respective teams. Therefore, getting the best quarterback crown for Allen may be a question of if his team can show up when it matters most as well, which to say that is a challenge for the Bills would be an understatement. Regardless, it remains to be seen what fate befalls each of these quarterbacks once the season ends. But for me, Mahomes will always be the top dog until he's forced off that saddle. Will it be this year? It could be, but for Bills fans, this year turns into next year quite regularly. So, we'll see. Well, that's it for my take on the difference between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. What do you think about it? Think Mahomes has GOAT potential and therefore shouldn't be grouped up with anyone not named Brady, Montana, or Manning? Or maybe you think Allen passed Mahomes last year and the QB in red just got bailed out by the flawed overtime rules? Whatever you think, let me know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the vid and would like to see more. This video has been made by Underdog. Peace.